All right. So what's the deal with warm-ups? That is going to be today's topic of discussion. So understand it can be very, very tricky, frustrating, annoying that you have one guy here that says, the warm-ups are just as important as the actual workout. And they have some 5-stage thing from foam rolling, banded distractions, dynamic warm-ups, potentiation work, blah, 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 blah. And then you have another guy, and this could also be a very educated professional guy that you respect and value that says, you got squats today, just start squatting, which makes it kind of annoying. Like I said, which one do I do? So, and I kind of want to break down how I look at this, and that's going to be with kind of 3 main categories, and I'll just talk about those right off the bat. So it's going to be preference, number 1. Okay, kind of intent goal of the workout for number 2. And number 3 is going to be, different limitations that you might have, problem areas, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go over number 1, preference. So it's just pretty straightforward. What do you enjoy? What do you like? What makes you feel like you had a more valuable or a more successful or a just more enjoyable experience in the gym? And this is where it's tricky because it can change from day to day. Are you more sore? Are you tired? Are you feeling lethargic? Are things kind of grindy and hurting? So for that individual, they might want to spend a little bit more time warming up. There's some people that are almost superstitious with, I like foam rolling, I do things like that. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, as long as it's not taking away from the main workout. I don't agree with the warm-up is as important as the workout. I don't agree with that. I can understand how people say that because they can say, oh, you can get injured and things like that. But what's going to cause the training adaptation is the training itself, not the warm-up. There's not going to be all that much adaptation to the warm-up unless it's progressive in nature, which most people, it isn't. Okay, so preference is going to be number 1, and I want to think about that physically and mentally. What gets you, 1, physically feeling the best for whatever task, whatever goal, whatever workout you're doing, and mentally, what puts you in the zone? Part of me jumping on an air bike before almost every single session is 1, I get the last little bit of text messages out of the way. And 2, not to sound super hippie, but I kind of start visualizing what I'm going to do for that day. I start kind of mentally preparing what's going on, how much effort I'm giving each set, each exercise. What does this workout look like? How do I feel during this workout? How do I feel when I finish and walk out of the gym? Okay. So that's going to be my number 1. It's just preference. And the best way to go about this is fuck around and find out. Try a warm up, try this warm up, try that warm up. See what you like. I like a little bit of dynamic warm ups, loosening up the whole thing, regardless of upper or lower body. It also touches on some of my mobility work, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So then number 2, intent goal of the workout. Now, if intensity is super duper high, meaning you're maxing out on squats or you're doing some crazy track sprint workout, probably should spend a little bit more time on working out. But this is going to go back to 1 because it's like, well, which ones do you do? And that's where it's kind of like, well, it kind of depends, man. So mess around with it. For workouts where I'm really pushing strength, I like some of the potentiation sets, meaning I might grab a med ball and forcefully push something with max intense. If it's something that has a little bit more mobility demands, I'm doing lateral lunges, things like that, then I might spend a little bit more time trying to gain some range of motion from my hips, doing half kneeling adductor rocks and things like that. So depending on what you have for that workout of the day, that might also determine what warm-ups you do, how long you warm up, et cetera, et cetera. So let's always kind of just think about that as we're going into our session. And then number 3 is going to be limitations, problem areas, things like that. So in this, they all kind of feed into each other. So again, I'm going to use that same example of if I'm doing some sort of lateral lunge and I know what that takes a lot of hip abduction. So let's say I'm going into my adductors just feel tight, which is going to hold us from abducting our hip. Maybe I spend a little bit more time, and that can look like the dynamic half kneeling adductor rock. Or if you need a little bit more thorough intervention, you might do some soft tissue work on the adductors just to loosen those up and then kind of decrease some tone, threat response, and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, there's no perfect, blanketed perfect warm-up, but there probably is a pretty good or perfect warm-up for you for one individual workout. So kind of get to know yourself. Play around with things, see what feels good in both subjectively, objectively, physically, mentally. So meaning what just kind of feels good, gets your mind right. what performance numbers help. So sometimes there has been, oh, I added this additional warm-up potentiation. My squats felt really good and actually set a PR today. Or my, what normally would have been an RPE 7 was RPE 6 or vice versa, whatever. So play around with it. Take note of what things that you like, what you didn't like, that you want to keep in, that you want to throw out. And also remember that each individual session is different. So some days I go in feeling great and my warm-up might only take 5-6 minutes. Other days I might go in there, whether it's mentally or physically not feeling the best, it might take 10 to 15 minutes. But the biggest thing is I don't think your warm-up should take 20 minutes and longer. I don't think that's what you should be spending the most time at. I think the most time should be spent with what causes the training adaptation that we are after, which is going to be the actual workout. So I know this isn't maybe the answer that you're wanting, because a lot of people just want to go and they say, Chase, can you just tell me what to do? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you different kind of food for thoughts and things to think about and try so you can kind of decide for yourself. All right. See you guys.